Alright, so happy Tuesday. Today we are working through Unit 2. It's going to go by a lot quicker than Unit 1, so let's go to the checklist and see what's on the agenda for today. Yesterday we did the bias and baloney Dropbox and discussion and the quiz on rhetoric, and today we are working through the majority of Unit 2. You can see there's 3 things to do here, but one of them is just reading. You'll need to read this content in order to do well on the summative tasks, but you don't need to do any assignment associated with that, so yay! So we're doing Activity 3, Reading Activity 4, and Activity 6. Tomorrow we'll finish up Unit 2, so like I said, real quick. So let's go to Activity 3, and I'll show you what we're doing. So Activity 3 is all about Shakespeare. We're not reading a Shakespearean play in this course, but it's really important for us to see how Shakespeare has influenced oral communication. So if you read the content, Shakespeare is a master in rhetoric, and that's one of the things that makes reading his work so enjoyable. So we're going to look at a couple of speeches in order to compare how different actors have looked at his work. So please watch Brutus's speech here and check your understanding with these questions to see how you're doing. And then I want you to watch Mark Antony's speech here. If this guy looks familiar, it's because he's Charlton Heston. And check your understanding here. So this is checking your listening just kind of formatively to see if you understand what's going on. And I'd like you to look at these lines. So if you were an actor, you'd be given a script, but how you would read it would be up to you. So what we're doing here is we're analyzing how different people interpret a written piece. I want you to try to read Shylock's speech down here and think of how he might be enunciating, what decisions he might make. And you can try Portia's speech here. If you think that you're a Shakespeare pro, you can do a little enrichment quiz here, but that's not the task for today. The task for today is comparing a couple of speeches and seeing how people perform it. So all I want you to do is pick 2 versions of the exact same speech. You could pick Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, any speech you want, but it should be at least a couple minutes of speaking, so potentially pick a soliloquy, and it shouldn't be a dialogue between the 2 characters. It should be a speech. So like To Be or Not to Be for Hamlet would be a perfect example of that. I'd like you to give me the URL for each of these speeches and then do a little bit of analysis here. So for example, I picked the To Be or Not to Be speech from Hamlet. Here are the URLs of 2 different people doing this speech. This is why I selected each performance. So each question should be a robust paragraph, with the exception to question 4. For question 4, you need to do a paragraph for each speaker. So you're going to have like a paragraph for 1, 2, 3 potentially, 2 paragraphs for 4, one for speech 1, one for speech 2, a paragraph for speech 5, or question 5, and a paragraph for question 6.
So let's look at the rubric. It's quite simple. I want you to look at 2 things. I want you to look at their strategies, including tone, pace, pitch, and volume, and how the 2 speakers might have made different choices. And I also want you to analyze in the form of the questions, and that's going to be here in 3.01. And then I am marking for spelling and grammar on this task, so please try to make sure that everything is correct, and that's here. So this one's a pretty simple. Answer the questions. Make sure you identify vocal strategies such as tone, pace, pitch, and volume, and that question should be addressed here in number 4. And this is the mark for the other questions, and then spelling and grammar. The next thing we need to do is just read the content for Activity 4. You can see there's no assignment page here, just to remind you that you're just looking at this content. We're growing our idea of rhetoric by looking at literary devices here. So you can print this off or put it on your computer if you want. And you could look at literary devices from the Martin Luther King speech that we looked at in the first activity. You can check your understanding with these quick questions. You just look at a quick answer here. And we're going to look at a more challenging piece of writing in the form of George Orwell, Politics in the English Language. He came up with a couple of rules that should never be used in English, and those rules are still kind of used today. So I would like you to look at this, because we're going to be coming back to that in the assignment. Churchill is also a really great speaker. I've got the speech listed here below. It's only 5 minutes. It's pretty short, and you could read along if you wanted to. And you can check your understanding of the literary devices here. So remember, there is no assignment for this task. If you do click here, you're going to get this, but I'm going to exit out so you don't see that. So the last thing that you're doing, if we go to Unit 2, you can see that there is no Activity 5. I've deleted it. So you're going to go to Content. You're going to read the content. So we're going back to Orwell again. Here's a copy of his speech. We looked at that in the last activity, so all today. I would really go through these answers to make sure you have a good understanding of what Orwell is talking about here, because this will give you hints for your last assignment. There's not a lot of content for this activity because you've been reading quite a bit today. And this is the assignment. So I want you to do a persuasive paragraph, please. I want you to decide whether or not you think the English language is improving or not over time. So you're either arguing that it is improving, or you're arguing that it is not improving over time. You are not taking a wishy-washy yes but no. I want you to take a firm stance and come up with some evidence as to why you think it is improving. I want you to use 3 rhetorical devices in your paragraph to show me you know how to use them, and I want you to draw from Orwell's essay, current events, and personal experience. So this is framing your answer. So what in Orwell's essay says that English is either getting better or worse, what in current events is saying that English is getting better or worse, and what from personal experience is saying English is getting better or worse. So this is a very formalized paragraph in the form that I'm really narrowing down what I want you to look at. Part 2 is looking at challenging writing, because in ENG3U you are going to be reading some challenging things, and I want you to answer the following questions. So this is kind of like a reflection, but it's kind of about content too. So read the 3 questions, and they will be marked for part 2 of this. So you should have a well-developed paragraph here, likely a 11-sentence paragraph. And I want each answer here to be 3 to 5 sentences. So I imagine this entire thing will likely be under 500 words. So that's on the agenda for today. So keep busy, and good luck.